And so, welcome back to the Albania travel series. We are right now here at the main square in front of the opera. So after spending here 1 month, a little bit actually more than that even, I put down all the costs, so living, going out, grocery shopping, transportation, and at this point I also traveled the country a lot. So tomorrow we're leaving to go to a different part of Albania. But first, let me give a little bit of a wrap-up of the different things that I've done, how my lifestyle looks here. And as always, the premise is kind of like to take your money to a place where it can get you a little bit further. And Albania is definitely one of the more affordable countries. Let's talk about that.
Hang up the phone and let your heart break on the internet.
And as always, I want to do a little bit of a wrap up. What is the cost of living here? Break it down on all of the main expenses. On the one side, if you're just curious, like how much money am I spending? How much does my lifestyle cost? And on the other side, if you maybe plan to travel, if you maybe plan to specifically come to Albania, this is on the one side kind of like from a traveler's perspective, but also let's say long-term travel. So staying in apartments for a longer time, short-term rentals, things like that, going out, restaurants, coffees, kind of like a digital nomad lifestyle. We're going to talk about coffee shops in depth. I would say let's jump in. First one, living or renting an apartment. And I've been living mostly in Airbnbs, short-term rentals, and here I have to say pleasantly satisfied in a way. I was staying somewhere always in between of like 15, 14 euro and 25, 30. So on average, I would say, me calculating, I always track my expenses. My average price for Airbnbs was 23 euro. My little trick that I kind of have is when I move into an apartment, I usually rent for 3-4 days. I get to know the landlord and then I either extend with cash or however. Or also when I come back to the same city, I travel long term here in Albania, for example, I come back to Tirana, I already stayed at 2-3 different apartments. I just reach out to the same people and organize it in a, let's say, more private way for a much better price. And yeah, so on the month, the good thing, kind of like a big hack or trick, which obviously not everybody can employ, not if you're a solo traveler, but I'm traveling together right now with Bianca and we're splitting let's say the rent and the cost of food. So it goes at the end for, let's say, for me, I have like around 350 euro cost of living if I don't have any, let's say, sponsor stays, which I'm going to mention at the end to give you some context with that as well. So Airbnbs, pleasantly, not surprised. It's kind of like what I expected, but definitely satisfied. You can get nice apartments. Right now I stay here for like 18 euro in a nice and big apartment, a little bit like 15-20 minute walk outside of the city, not straight up in the city center, but that's exactly how I like it. Like it's 100 square meters here. So you can get some good deals for sure. Number two, I would say, is eating, grocery shopping, just, you know, living the regular life. Veggies, fruits, grains, noodles, meat. This is kind of like how my diet looks like. And on average, our grocery trips are like 15-20 euro. We do grocery trips 3 times a week. So what would that be? Like, just looking again to my finances, I have the notes here on my phone as well. I mean, overall, when it comes to grocery shopping, I've most of the time spent around like 150 to 200 euro a month. And here it is no different. Things that are worth mentioning is, let's say, when I arrived in Albania, it was really the season for fruits, for cherries, for nectarines, and I got totally crazy. I'm a big fruit lover, and for me, like fresh cherries. Also, when my sister was visiting, we just kept buying fruits here, but then I realized it was really the high season now that things got a little bit more expensive. Like even if I'm in the supermarket, I want to get some bananas. They're like more expensive than in most places that I've been. So the point that I want to come down to is if you want to, let's say, be on a budget, or for me also, I don't necessarily want to buy fruits that are more expensive because they have to travel all over the world. So that's why here, maybe I get 1 or 2 bananas a week if I want to have them like with the yogurt, with the good old kos, as called here in Albania. I really like it. But other than that, I stick with local fruits, and that ends up to be, for me, a lot more affordable than it is something that they had to import, and they maybe don't have all the good import pathways to make it like super cheap. Like in Germany, for example, bananas are ridiculously cheap. Here, it's not the case. So things like meat, I think per kilo, I pay here around 600 lek, which is kind of like €5. Not bad at all. And this is kind of like as a price point. I would say grocery shopping is more affordable than in, let's say, Central Europe, Western Europe, but not much, maybe like 20-30% as I experience it. But then let's go into, let's say, eating out, going to restaurants. And here I have to say you really have both. If you're in a touristy area, you can also leave a little bit more money. But if you go to the local places and also at the most beautiful like beach towns like Himara, Saranda, like most of the people who travel there are locals from Albania too, at least, especially right now, you know. So there the prices are ridiculously affordable. I'm speaking like a nice rooftop bar where you can get like a super nice chicken sandwich or chicken wings for like €2. That's what I'm saying, like 250 lek. It's like cheaper than in the usual Subway, but much better on a rooftop bar. That would be like 3-4x in, let's say, a Western travel destination in Western Europe. So in that case, I have to say, but if you go to a little bit more nicer, a little bit more upscale restaurant, still definitely more affordable than Central Europe, but it can also like let's say the most expensive places that I've been to here once or twice, they are kind of like the price of the starting points in other European countries. So €10 or something, and you can get like a really nice meal, maybe 2 dishes with a drink. So eating out, I would say comparably, like relatively speaking also to grocery shopping, is really affordable. Also, if we talk about, especially if we talk about street food, souvlaki, something that I love to get here maybe once, twice a week, and it runs me like 200 lek, sometimes 150 lek, which is €1 to like €1.50, €2 max for the local souvlaki here. Absolutely love it. Even like if you're on the beach, even if you're in a beach town, like right by the beach, still €2. That's pretty crazy affordable. And now I would say let's talk a little bit more about details. Details like, for example, having a SIM card to stay connected when you go out. I mean, I personally don't even need it that much, even as like an influencer. I like to actually stay a little bit off the Instagram all the time, but here, especially to find your way around Google Maps, that's kind of like the main reason why I end up getting a SIM card for sure wherever I come. And here I didn't find like affordable options to just get like 2 GB or 4 GB or something like this is what I usually would go for. Here I got I believe like 15 GB in the first month for, what was it, 1,500 lek, which is pretty much like $13, $14, €13. And I think it's reasonable. I think it's fine, but that's kind of like also the amount of money that I would pay maybe in Germany to get like a 5 GB, 10 GB. And yeah, what else do you have here on the list? For example, if you want to rent a car, we rented a car for 1 day. It cost us €35. That's actually how we rented it. And kind of like with insurance, no extra costs, especially if you're not 25 yet, like I'm 24. And then they very often give you like fees, like the car is €30, but then give you like 20-30 euro on top as a fee. All my youngsters are gonna know. And here, obviously kind of like more local, they didn't care. So €35, it's a good deal, especially if you're below 25, a very good deal. Other than that, it's kind of like average as in most places. And now let's talk about things like coffee shops. And this, I gotta say, I love in Albania. So especially in Tirana, they have all over Albania, but here in Tirana, I noticed they have a lot of coffee chains. Mulleri, I'm sure I pronounced it wrong, but what is the other one? Mon Chéri, Sofia. So those are kind of like coffee chains that just walking around in Tirana, I see like 10, 20 of each of those chains. And right now around the corner, I have a Mulleri, and I go there. Either I get an espresso macchiato for 70 lek, which is like 60 cents, or a cappuccino for 130 lek, which is pretty much €1. And I gotta say, I love that because it's not just little cafe. It's actually really, really nice cafes. This is also where I'm headed to after filming this video. And for me, that's huge. Like have a nice place where you can sit down, especially now post-COVID. These places have been locked down before as far as I heard, like a month or two, they're opening up more and more. Most of the time, like not spending more than €2, which in most countries you have to like minimum €2-3 for like the cheapest coffee. And if you go into the Starbucks, it's like 4 or 5. And that's something that I personally, I just rather cook my coffee at home. I just cannot justify it to my well, how can I call that? My resourcefulness, let's say it like that. Greedy fuck. And then other things, just like, let's say, free time activities, boat tours, I also found to be fairly affordable here, definitely more affordable than in like very touristy places anywhere else, like let's say Central Europe or even Southeast Asia, a place like Thailand, where they're gonna charge you for a tour like 25, 30, 40 euro. Here actually I saw even many boat tours for around 20 euros, so I think it's very, very reasonable. Haven't done them yet, but just as a first impression. And the last thing, maybe should have addressed it a little bit earlier, but transport from one city to another, as well as within the city. Like in Tirana, they also have taxis, but I'm a big walker. I've been walking around. In my opinion, the city is very, very walkable. And if I ended up going somewhere like to the bus station to go to other cities, took the local bus. There you have to get a little bit creative. I mentioned it in one of the first Albania videos, how the bus system works here a little bit through Google Maps. Maybe they fixed it at this point. I hope somebody will. You cannot really get the bus line that you need going with Google Maps. They don't really show it to you for whatever reason. Like one of the very few countries that I traveled in the past few years that like don't work like that, unfortunately. So you have to go to the website, and there you see all the different bus lines. And after you take the bus like once or twice, you figure it out, and it's super cheap. It's like 40 lek. I mean, what is this? Like 10, 20 cents as. And the last thing to mention would be from one city to another. Let's say from Tirana to Saranda, the cost is 1,300 lek, which is a little bit more than 10 euro, like 11 euro, $12, to go from the capital city to the furthest, almost pretty much furthest southern city, Saranda. Absolutely loved it there. You can check out my videos. And to a city like from Tirana to Berat, I believe is like 400 lek. So that is pretty affordable. It's like 3-4 euro for like 1.5 hour ride. So all throughout the countries, you can get somewhere between like 5 and 15 euro dollars. And yeah, I think that's reasonable. And they're all very well connected, even though in the beginning, if you Google it, you pretty much don't find much other than, let's say, a TripAdvisor entry from like 2004 where somebody tries to figure something out. But if you actually go to the bus station that is a little bit outside of Tirana, you can just ask around. People are going to tell you where it is. And then they just ask you, hey, what city you go to? You hop on a bus and you're off to go wherever you want to go. So at the end of the day, to wrap up today's video, my overall cost of living comes, that's where I like to keep it also as of right now, comes to around 1,000 euro with living, with going out, with moving around the different towns, and a little bit less than that, but like with other, maybe like with a flight that I have to take for like 50 to 100. So I'm really like relatively to my standards living on a budget, for many reasons. On the one side, to keep up a certain, let's say, nomadic travel lifestyle, be able to put some money aside, be able to invest into some future projects, and also every once in a while I have sponsored stays with different hotels that I feature in my videos, also in Albania so far. That has been pretty nice. You can check it out in some of my previous videos, which also put my personal cost a little bit down. But let's say the average cost that I mentioned for apartments and so on definitely is correct, what I mentioned for myself. And yeah, this is pretty much, if you're just interested in how my life looks, how my expenses look like, how I drive them a little bit down while still living in. And so I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you got some value out of it. If you're planning to come to Albania or generally were curious how the cost situation looks like, as always, smash the thumbs up button and leave me a comment below. Like, what do you think? Do you plan to ever come to Albania? Did you maybe heard it for the first time by watching my videos? Or also a lot of locals have been watching, as I've seen. So welcome on the channel. My name is Danny, and for the past, yeah, here on the channel, 3-4 years, I've been documenting my life around travel, what I do to stay in shape, both physically as well as mentally. I have a second channel where I talk about different topics around that. And also recently I started an exclusive Patreon community where on the one side, you can just support me. If you have been watching my stuff for weeks, months, or maybe even years, and you got something out of it, you can support me per month. Also, I have a monthly podcast where I just update a little bit on my life, and there I answer questions. So with that, I give you a guarantee that your question is going to be answered either on the podcast or in person. And then I have higher tier where I actually give also the option to connect with me in person. I give up my personal number, but you can get all the information in the link that I will put in the description below. But other than that, just you watching means a lot and is more than I can ask for. So with that, until next time, you too got a world to see.
I only know this one. I only know like very sad songs.
Let's go.
Someone like you, I wish nothing but the best for you. I don't know.
Any? I like big butts and I cannot lie. Yeah, where are all these behind the scenes videos, huh?